Well now, this is the beginning of the end, everyone. Are you ready? Let's step into Chapter 24. Beforehand, I have a warning to issue to players of the current translation patch. In both this chapter and the next, the game will freeze and force you to restart if you move your cursor over any of the mercenaries with the default settings. Thankfully, you can stop this by either temporarily removing the patch, or just by turning off the name pop-ups of units when you scroll over them on the map, which I am showing you how to do here. Hopefully, this will all be fixed by the new patch when it comes out, but just keep this in mind for now. With that out of the way, your boss here is finally Rydrick, and you can just defeat him and seize to move on to the endgame, but there is a guiding objective you can tackle here. It has basically no gameplay significance and is just plot related, but I'll admit you'd have to be a pretty cold-hearted bastard to not try and achieve it, as it involves saving Yvel. There is also your last recruitable unit, Galzus, who can be gotten by having Maria speak to him, so make sure she's with the middle group. But aside from your main force with Leaf and whoever you got from Chapter 23 going to fight Rydrick's forces, you have a right flank that deals with a swarm of status staff users in that alcove, and a left flank that will go to rescue a group of children. If you want to get to the Gaiden, you need to save the kids. One of them at random will go to this big door starting on turn 5 and open it. Only that random kid can do so, and inside resides the Kia staff. You need both that staff and Sarah alive to go to Chapter 24X. You'll need Sarah for that chapter as well, so don't bring her here unless you're sure she won't get fatigued or you have an S strength to spare. Now, as for the reinforcements, you have some soldiers here from turns 2 to 5, Dark Mage that pops up behind the throne just to use Unlock on this random door in the literal middle of nowhere on turn 8, some basic Dark Mages flanking the throne from turns 10 to 20, a Thief here on turn 20, and inside the Kia staff room, 2 Dark Mages that seem to show up infinitely after the door is opened. Just one more thing before we go into gameplay. You know that weird door I mentioned the Dark Mage opening? That's where the sole secret shop of the game is. If you got the member card from Chapter 18, you can use it there to buy almost every kind of stat ring in the game, which is way too little, too late, but I'm sure someone might be interested. Now then, you'll definitely need thieves and staff users to clear this lot out, or if you remembered my warning from Chapter 22, then a handful of door keys as well. You'll probably want to silence the Sleep, Berserk, and Silence Dark Mages in the right-hand alcove, plus the Restore Dark Mage so he can't undo your efforts, or if you have Blizzard Tomes here, this is where they can be put to great use. Go nuts! You have just 2 chapters left after all. Maybe just 1, depending on whether you go to the Gaiden or not. You'll also probably need a warp or 2 to make sure all the children get saved, thanks to the 2 doors in your way. Now, thankfully the Dark Mages won't attack them unless they get blocked off, but you don't want them to run off with the child you need on chance. Lastly, you might also want to staff the 2 mercenaries flanking each side of the door on the right side. The top one has a Berserk sword, with the bottom having a Sleep sword. Not so much about getting them yourself, but making sure they don't inflict them on you. When it comes to approaching Galzus, be careful about his range. He and his squad will rush you as soon as the first door is opened, but he has 5 move stars to potentially screw you over with. It'd be a quick restart, unlike say Chapter 6, but it's never pleasant. I don't know what you want me to say about Galzus. He just messes people up with his near maxed combat stats. Dual Moonlight Meteor Sword, 5 move stars, 3 PCC, and dual A-rank sword and axe awesomeness. I mean, he's just an awesome power trip for the last 2 chapters of the game, and he makes 24X in the endgame more tolerable. That's all there is to it. Although, I guess I should add that, just as a funny side note, he also has the same growths as Olwen, the last of 4 characters to do so, and I guess it doesn't really matter because he's at level 20 and you'll never see him level up, but I think it's funny. Speaking of enemies, some of the Dark Mages here are carrying a new tome that you will just love to death. Hell. It weighs a sack of bricks and has shit accuracy, but it drops whatever it hits to 1 HP, or kills whatever it hits if they're already at 1 HP. This is not so bad itself, but if the target is poisoned, then it's pretty much game over unless they somehow drain HP during the enemy phase, because poison will just kill them at the start of your phase. And no, Serum can't use it. Lousy, stupid enemy-only Dark Tomes. Anyway, assuming you've dealt with getting the staff and taking out the left side, your last target is Rydrick. His stats are pathetic, but his Laputo blade has a nasty trick. Just like the Laputo Tome of Genealogy, it cuts your attack power in half, which when combined with the thrown bonuses and the sword's plus 20 magic, means even Seti can barely scratch him. Thankfully, you should have the Blagi Sword, which negates this effect and his big shield, and is also super effective versus armored units. It's quite easy to 1 or 2 shot him with it. If for whatever reason you don't have the Blagi Sword or are just feeling gutsy, then Merida, Galzus, or anyone with Moonlight Sword can also kill him, provided the skill triggers, though this is nowhere near as reliable. Or, if you want to really humiliate Rydrick, you can steal a bow or other ranged weapon onto him, let him equip it and use it at range, then use Tina to steal his Laputo sword. Nobody you have can use it, obviously, but it just goes to show how pathetic the final bosses of 776 are. Because if you think this was anticlimactic, oh, just you wait for Berdo. Next time, Hell in Fire Emblem form. The kind of level that makes Binding Blade Chapter 14 look reasonable by comparison. See you then. Thanks for watching.